Hi again, this is Phil McNally with Artspeak, and I'm here to talk to you about the final episode with Crista, who's going to be talking about Harry and about her ventures as far as where she went, as far as the galleries and the curating. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy it. Subscribe. Thank you.
I'm just finishing a book, which I'm very excited about. So I'm putting the finishing touches on that, and I'm planning my crowdfunding campaign to get it out into the world. I'm planning a retreat for artists to come here with another artist, Samantha Kaplan. We're going to host that next September. And I'm putting together some new workshops for artists about money and prosperity. And I'm also putting together a new program for artists to teach artist mentorship for people who want to do the kind of work I do. And then almost every day I meet with an artist to mentor them, talk about their work and their career. So it's a pretty full life. It's a lot of projects. It's a lot going on, my own projects and helping other people to their projects too. But it's all stuff I love.
That that is that is astounding. I mean, from an American standpoint, and that's where I'm going to be coming at you from an American standpoint. That sounds busy. I mean, you just sound very, very, very busy. So how do you keep that busyness of all of those tasks and goals right there that you mentioned? How do you make that actually work?
That's a
All
great
of
question. I took the word busy out of my vocabulary, and that helped a lot to not define myself that way anymore. And I do the Pomodoro technique, which is, I set a timer for 25 minutes. So I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on today. They get, 25 minutes of focus, and then I might clean the house a little bit, do a little bit of exercise, just move my body and then sit down and work on the next one for 25 minutes. But I learned a long time ago that there's no such thing as an emergency in art, really. There are deadlines, and I'll meet my deadlines. That's not a problem, but I don't have to get all stressed out about anything. Most of my deadlines are self-imposed, so it's not that big of a deal if I miss them. Time management is one of my secret passions because I did spend a lot of time getting stressed out. I've spent years and years being super stressy and high anxiety. I come from a long line of anxious people. um, and so I love to read about time management. I love to take courses on time management. I love to put together, I teach my own course on time management and project management for artists because I like to geek out on that stuff. So it's just a big part of my life is managing that kind of stress so that I don't experience it. And, my morning routine is very, very long. So it pretty much takes my morning before I get to work. And that's okay. I'm part of a mastermind group, and we were talking about time management the other day and how we each work differently. And I don't really take days off. That's not true. I take 2 days a month off. I take the new moon off and I take the full moon off, and I use them to really reflect on my life and my business and my health and just to sort of re-navigate myself. But other than that, I've decided that my priority is relationships. So whether it's jumping on a Zoom call with my mother or, someone knocks on the door while I'm working and I have them come in for a cup of tea and a conversation, like that's the most important thing. Because I think it's really important to ask ourselves, what are we working for? And, I'm working for relationships because that's really important to me. I'm working for the ability to live in a beautiful place. I'm working for a feeling of grace in my work and the ability to work on things that are meaningful to me. So as long as I'm doing that, I'm succeeding.
Wow. Um, that's quite amazing because again, from my standpoint as an artist, I find, I don't know, it may be the town, it may be the country, but we're all over here in such a hurry. I
Yeah,
mean, the time management is like, it's out the door. It's like
right.
we're wasting. I think as artists, and I think as just normal people in business or whatever, we're just wasting so much time on things that don't need to be wasted on. And we're not really focusing on the right things. But you actually took it one step further, which I really love. And that is, you are focusing or have a priority on the relationships,
Mm,
which that is something that's missing over here. The
mm,
relationships goes by a phone and a
mhm.
social media thing that you never even know who these people are or what they do or
Right.
how they do it.
And half of us don't even answer our phone anymore. So we're
Mhm.
even, we're texting, and that texting does not count. I don't let people have conversations with me via text. Um, it has to be, if you're going to text me, you're giving me directions or telling me what time to meet you. But it's for instructions and information, but not for real communication. And, art is communication. So we're in the communication business. It's important.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if we want to sell our work, we're in the relationship business. That's the secret to success in the art business is relationship building, relationships. So it doesn't matter that it's a farmer who's knocking on my door, wants a cup of tea and, is bringing me some figs and is never going to buy a piece of work from me or sign up for one of my courses. None of that matters. It's all about the energy, um, about what you give out, because have learned that that very much equals what you bring in. And France has taught me that a lot. Any place that shuts down for 2 or 3 hours at lunch every day, plus takes every village seems to have one day a week that's their day off too. So you have to like know, oh, Thursdays, everything's closed in this town. It's, at first I was like, what? And how dare the grocery store be closed at lunchtime? Like that doesn't make any sense. But you know, it's because relationships are the most important thing in the world, and quality of life is important, and even your relationship with your food is important. And so I've kind of been forced to slow down and find new ways of being and connecting.
That's it right there. I think that's more of it right there. It's something that needs to be retaught to this country,
Mm,
that we need to slow down. We don't slow down. We're just putting pedal to metal and going faster and faster and faster. And it's funny because I retired in 2019, right before COVID. And I said, okay, I'm going to devote myself into art. And I've said this before. And I just said, my quality art is that I'm just going to learn art. And I
mhm,
took all this time just to learn art, learn art, learn art, learn art. And I went this way and went this way. And then I said, okay, well, now I've got to market the art. So then I said, okay, market art. Okay. Then I got into social media and oh my God, that was a crazy time. So
mhm,
I've taken basically 2 to 3 years of start. I'm a researcher. So I've started there and got all the way to the other side just to figure out what are the ceilings on all of these topics, where I need to go and where I need to be. I came across an artist who suggested to me halfway through of all of this, said, you know what? Why don't you just, if you're going to market, just start local. Just find some people and talk to them. Don't don't text, don't phone,
mhm.
don't email. Just go find people and start with the local. And I kind of blew it off to a certain extent, but it's actually, when I'm finishing up here, it's coming back around to the same thing. It is a relationship building from an artist standpoint that I see. And I'm pretty strong on this now, that I believe it is relationships. You have to see people, you have to talk to people, you have to let them get to know who they are so they can know who you are.
Mhm.
Both sides, that it works out that way. And I find in this town and in many towns here, um, It doesn't exist. But I grew up when the phone was actually a phone. It didn't have anything but numbers on it. It didn't have any other. You used it for one purpose and one purpose
Yeah.
alone.
And it was on
And,
a wall.
and it
Yeah.
was on a wall or in
Didn't
a
move.
telephone
Yeah.
booth down on the corner
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
but
Even
that's
worse.
about it. I mean, it has changed to the point where phones are your best friends. And I don't think anybody, I think very few people are realizing they're not your best friends.
Right.
They're not. It's that person who's got a phone right next to you, and that person without that phone, if he didn't have that phone, that's your best friend.
Yeah.
That's the person you need to be relating to. And people don't get it. So let me ask you something, because I get this too from out there, and it'll probably be good information for people who are listening to this. I've come across others who've gone through a journey, artists who and teachers who've gone through a journey, and they say, it took me so long to get through this, but now that I've got through this, I've condensed it down to where you don't have to go through that journey. What do you take from that? Because I'm seeing a lot of that on the net, as far as saying years and years and years and years of developing this. I mean, who do you believe and who do you not believe? Don't tell me it depends, because I'm not going to
But
down that road.
it's the same thing again. You do your research and you find out, like, does this artist's journey, find out what you can about their journey and about their work and what they believe in. And if it resonates with you, then yeah, see what they've got to share, because we're all here to share with each other and learn and grow. And that's, it's one of the beauties and blessings of the internet, is there's a wealth of that. But be careful of gurus. One person does not hold all the answers, except me, of course. But no, I mean, everyone, different teachers speak to different students in different ways. And there's nothing to be, sometimes people work with me and they work with, my competition. I like to call my competition, my colleagues. My colleagues, sometimes they work with my colleagues too, or instead, and it's all fine because we each have different pieces of the puzzle. But if someone tells you, like, you're never going to make it if you don't do Instagram reels, unless you really want to do Instagram reels and you're willing to learn, and you want to learn how to do Instagram reels better, then maybe that person isn't for you. But there is no should in art. That's the reason that we're all here. It's not one size fits all.
Well, that's what gets me a little bit weary on having guides. When you start saying there's guides and there's tutorials and there's ways of doing their steps and stuff like that, I say, okay, well, who are those steps for? Who are those guides for? I mean, it may work beautifully for the person that did it or who wrote it, but it may not work so well for other people who are reading it. But then again, there may be somebody who's reading it and it's working great for that person too. And you think, well, they've got all these people who are just working great. Then you get a hold of it and then you sit there and you go through it and you say, oh my God, this I know, because we are all different. And I mean, one person's sauce may turn them on greatly, where another person who tries it, it's just like, oh my, it doesn't work. So there's where you get the guy coming in the door with the tears in his eye. Because I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, and I've tried this. And none of them have worked. None of them.
I think the best guides ask questions so that you can take yourself on the journey. No one's going to take it for you. In terms of with you, they're not in front of you like, we're going this way. It's like they ask you questions. Well, which way do you want to go? Let's look at your work again. Let's figure this out. Okay, now you go. And this is how you're going to, chop down the tall grass and the trees in your way. The
It
guide
could
is
be
there to support you.
well, yeah, but the guide is there also to be with you, and sometimes I think you might have to clip the guide, because it's like, okay, a journey of children. You just, well, everybody follow me, and you
Mm.
go up the mountain and you take the path and you're saying this is great. We've lost Harry. Where did Harry go? I don't know. And there he is, way on the other side. And you say, what are you doing over here? Oh, well, I thought this was kind of cool to go over here, you know?
Yeah.
So I see that as being good to have the guide there to watch over, but it doesn't mean that his track is always the best track or the right track. Hell, Harry could have gone off onto a wrong track too. I mean, he said, I went over here and I got, fell in a hole. But at the same time, I could come over here and saying, there's prettier flowers over here than there were where you were leading me. I mean, it is a crazy way of trying, but I don't have answers.
And then you got to make your, I think a guide is really helpful until you decide to make your own track, until
Mm,
you know enough about the landscape. A guide is there to like teach you how to read the map, show you
mm,
what to do if you're going to run in, if you're going to run into trouble. I
mm.
mean, you talk
And
about
sometimes so
Harry. Where is this?
sometimes trouble is good. Sometimes trouble you need to run into. What you
This
got?
is my friend Harry.
Is that Harry?
Yeah, Harry passed away 1 week shy of his 100th birthday. And Harry was a conductor, uh, and classical music conductor.
Oh my gosh.
And then television started, and he got a job like conducting for the TV orchestra for the BBC. And like the world kept changing, and Harry would keep keep changing with the world. He was going into places where people
Mm-hmm.
hadn't worked before,
Mm-hmm.
but he knew his music, right? He knew his craft. He knew his voice. He knew what he wanted. He was open to something new. And yeah, when you said Harry's gone off, I thought about Harry.
Thought about it. Well, that says we got something going on here because I'm feeling Harry. My gosh, I'm kind of feeling the same way about my things. I mean, if artists are not able to change, if you're an artist out there and you don't change, you're obstinate to any sorts of change, uh, you're not going far. To me, I consider you guys hobby artists. I mean, you're not business artists. If you want to take the business of art, and business artist does not necessarily mean, as we brought out in this podcast, does not mean money. It means finding who you are and what you are. And that's part of being an artist. If you're not one of those, if you are just fine, and I'm sure you've met a whole bunch too. I've met people that are just happy just to have a brush in their hands and paint and don't need any more than that. Not one thing more than that. And that's fine.
Hmm.
But if you're really looking to want to be out there further and take that journey to say, how far can I really go? What is my ceiling? And
Right.
with Harry, that ceiling is one that keeps changing and keeps growing. And you say, okay, I've hit the ceiling maybe in 1950, but in 1955 or 1960, that ceiling has now upped itself. So it
Yeah.
keeps leveling up, or like you said with your spiral and your guide, you're sometimes up and then you come back down, bump into
Hmm.
something, and then you got to get back on it and go back on. I mean, that's work.
It's joyful work,
if
and
you if you enjoy doing
yeah,
it, yes, it's absolutely joyful work. I agree with you. Yeah, if you enjoy doing it, if you find it burdensome, like I need to do Instagram reels,
yeah,
that's a burden, then that's not joyful work. That's
right.
like you said, suggested, and that's a hard pill for some people to take. You don't need to do them anymore,
Hmm.
and be okay with that.
Hmm. Yeah,
And not feel
yeah,
guilty about that, or George and Martha and everybody else is doing them, but I'm not doing them anymore. And I say, oh my God, I'm lost.
right.
But you help try to find people their ways, right? You help try
Yeah,
to find artists in a certain way based upon all of your background and how far you've come.
Yeah, I mean, when I was an art dealer, I had a very unique position in the art world. I was running a studio, and artists would be invited to come to the studio and collaborate with us to make art. And we worked with a lot of very big name blue chip artists. And we used the money that we raised from those projects to introduce underrepresented artists to the to the marketplace. So I'm talking, you know, female artists, artists of color, older artists, you know, just people who were not getting seen. And I had to create a marketing campaign for everyone I worked with. Like for some of the, you know, the blue chip artists, that wasn't that hard. Like they already had a brand, they already had, you know, the statement and the bio and the market, you know, so that was, it was easier to get those doors to open. But there were, you know, probably over the course of my career, a couple hundred artists who I had to create a market for them. And it became very second nature to me to look at an artist's work, to find a golden thread and to find a way to sell this work. I couldn't go to the same, you know, 5 places all the time and keep selling the same stuff. I had to like really spread out. I
Mhm.
was selling internationally, but I was mostly focused on the United States. But I was selling in all 50 states, and I was selling to interior designers and corporate collections and galleries and, you know, private collectors. And sometimes I would go, you know, way outside of things, you know, to something that was even outside of the art world as a place to sell someone's art if it was a good match. So I didn't realize until I left the art world the value that that had and how it would feed this, you know, this new season of my life and this work that I'm doing now.
Do you see that part that you left change? Is it changed since you've left? The interior decorators, the people that you sold to, and everything else, is that, I mean, galleries have changed, but I mean,
Galleries
all
have
these,
changed. Yeah.
is it,
I've seen the art world open up a lot more, for
it's opened
sure.
up. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it
And what's
was,
the means that it opened up by? I mean, is it the net? Is that basically it? I mean,
the
it's
net
not
helped
a,
a lot. You know, I mean, when I was when I was selling art, we were part of that change. We were
mm,
going to museums and saying, "Hey, you're not showing any Latinos. You know, here's some
mm.
work that we think is really interesting and bears looking at." And, you know, luckily I was working for a really great studio with a really great reputation, so I could get those doors to open. I could get people to take a look at what, you know, what we were doing, and they could hear us. So, I mean, I'm not saying that we changed it, but I'm saying that there were a lot of thoughtful people um, coming up who were saying this needs to change and helped to open some of those doors to change. But the internet just really exploded everything.
So as far as the type of art that is, I mean, I know abstracts are kind of big today and trending to a certain degree. I mean, you talked about Latinos and then you talked about women art and stuff like that. Does that go back to kind of what I'm saying or what I was kind of thinking of as far as branding, making sure that your art is somewhat themed, that it could fit into places such as this or that based upon what it is like? Because, like, okay, take an example, make it simple. I do landscapes. So if I
Okay.
do impressionistic landscapes, I would want to go to galleries and go to interior decorators or go to whoever else that is into landscapes. They like
Mm-hmm.
landscapes, not abstracts, because abstracts, we don't want puppy dogs, you know, da 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 da. We want landscapes. How how difficult does that become? Because for abstracts, almost everybody's taking them. I mean, everybody's looking at them at least. But if you get into such a niche, such as a
Mm-hmm.
very micro area that is not really big right now, but it is you, and this is how you identify, how do you keep funneling down to find that? Because maybe the gallery's located, I'm in Texas, So maybe the gallery's located in Canada. I'll never find that one on a little street corner. Da 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 da. Would love your art, but how do I get to that guy?
Well, that's why God made the internet.
Gotcha.
You do your research. Uh, when I was selling art, I used the Art in America Gallery Guide as my Bible. So, if I would go to a different town or city in the United States every month. I did this for years and years and years. And I would target that place and I would look in the Art America Gallery Guide and I would look online and I would find like every gallery, every interior designer, every corporate collection, and see who they're showing, what they're showing, who did I have, what did I have, where might there be overlaps. Okay, so this town seems to be really interested in black and white photography. There seems to be a lot going on in this town in terms of black and white photography. Let's go outside of just that. And where else could I maybe connect with people? And so it's, yeah, doing your research and thinking outside the box. I
And
think of
you,
this guy who drew oil refineries. Like that was his thing. He lived in Texas, I think, and was drawing oil refineries and had a really hard time finding, his market. There were no galleries that really wanted to just show pictures of oil refineries. But he started going to conferences for people who worked in the oil business. And he was the only artist showing. And guess what? He did great because those are the people who wanted to buy pictures of oil refineries.
I think I know one guy who was like that. He was an illustrator. He worked for an oil company and he was doing illustrations of oil pumps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that is interesting. You're right about the internet, because if you're looking through at the Yellow Pages days when you only had a book and now you have the internet, I guess the research could prove quality wise as far as finding something or finding an area or getting yourself done. But again, I keep you and I keep touching on this one basic thing about artists, and it says you need to get off your butt and you need to work, because it isn't going to be yourself doing it. As far as not doing it, you don't get anywhere. You have to do it and you have to go through it, and that's the key. So your book itself, I mean, is the book the only thing you have out? I mean, I think you have art. What is that? You have a website, The Working Artist. So
Yeah,
is
I have a
this part?
course,
Yeah,
the
let's
Working
talk
Artist
about the
Program.
course though. She
Okay.
has a course called The Working Artist, and it's at theworkingartist.com. So tell us a little bit more of that. In fact, I'll tell you what, let me say this to start you off with, because I thought this was very interesting.
Okay.
You had on your website, on that page, you had choose one. Where are you on your art journey? He says, I'm starting out, I'm mid-career, I'm established, I'm an educator. So it's like, I love that, because it was the stages. Where are you at right now? Where most people who would have a website saying, hey, I'll help you in your art, is that we'll take you in no matter what, kind of, wherever you're at, professionals or non-professional, but you actually defined it. Because I could actually say, well, I know what class I fall into, which
Yeah.
is, then you go from there. So tell us about The Working Artist.
Thanks. Well, the Working Artist, funnily enough, it came out of that experience with a guy that sadly, I made that guy cry. Um, After he left the gallery, I was really moved by that experience. And I started to keep notes on my job and what I was doing and what kind of, because I remember that guy kept asking me, like, who can help me? Where can I go? How can I don't understand. And I went to the library, I looked on Amazon, I got a couple books, but I wasn't seeing the, the resources out there as a reflection of my experience. So I started putting together some ideas of for a resource that would help artists. And then I spoke to the university and they told me to put together a course. So I put together a syllabus and then I got an agent and I put together the outline of a book. And then I remember the agent telling me, there's not enough artists in the world to really warrant writing a book. I don't know why I listened to him. But I
That's
got so
good.
busy with other things, I forgot about this. I completely forgot about doing this. And it wasn't until years later when I had sold all of my possessions and moved to the south of France. So I was like, well, let me look on my computer and see, files from when I was an art dealer. And there was this whole syllabus and this whole book outline that I'd written. And it was The Working Artist, basically. I had a very unfortunate title for it at the time. I had called it Sell Out, making it as an artist. It's not the best title in retrospect, but it was all there. And I had already done this. I'd already created the course. So I found a little gallery in England who let me, set up a slide projector in a closet, and I got 3 artists to pay me some money to sit in this closet for 9 hours. And one day I just like packed everything I knew into this day. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I came out of that, you know, when when you've done something really good and you've really connected with people, it was like this high.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
just came out of there saying, this is what I want to do for the rest of my
mhm,
life.
mhm.
I want to work with artists. And then to see them succeed, and then to see the next cohort succeed, and then to start traveling and teaching this course. Um, it was an amazing, beautiful experience. And I started to think about putting the course online, filming it and putting it online. And I loved that idea. So I started going around the world basically and teaching in different countries just to make sure that the information was relevant, wherever you go. And it wasn't just America and England, but it turns out that the art world is one world.
Mhm.
It kind of doesn't matter where you live. There's so much that's the same. There's so much to artists that are the same. So I did a crowdfunding campaign. And through the crowdfunding campaign, I raised the money to create the Working Artist Program, which has been online for 10 years now. And I've worked with artists in over 80 countries. And it's such a joy to meet different artists and to hear how, you know, this thing that I created out of the worst day of my life has changed other people's lives. And I get to use my creativity doing it. That's what I love the most about it is, my blog is all my photographs, my writing. I don't AI generate articles. Everything is
Mhm,
from my own experience. And a lot of
mhm.
my work is story-based, you know, my experiences, other artists' experiences. And that's the Working Artist. So it's a comprehensive program. It's pretty much, everything I learned from working in the art business and selling art at every different price point. I've represented work that was $40 and I represented work that was $40,000. And I've worked with all kinds of galleries, all kinds of museums all over the world. I've worked online now for years. And I just keep learning and growing and sharing what I learn as I go along.
So that's why you've got these different levels that you're saying. So come at what level are you? You can work with any type of artist as far as whatever level he or she is on.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely. Absolutely.
and everyone is unique and different then as far as your
Hmm.
teaching methods, right?
Well, I mean, the course is online, and so it's a
Mhm.
series of videos. Um, when I work one-on-one with people, those sessions are always very, very different. But the Working Artist Program gives people a very well-rounded education in the art business and in art marketing. But I ask a lot of specific questions within the program to help people find their way through that so they know what they want to do and what path is right for them. You can't take every path, but mine
Mhm.
isn't a cookie cutter strategy. Mine is like, here's what's out there. Let's ask some questions so you can find your way. and create a path for yourself. And then if you want to work one-on-one with me, then I can help you, like even dig deeper into that.
So the thing with yours is that we're not doing it for you necessarily. You're doing it yourself, as
Mm-hmm.
far as from a teacher to student scenario. The student has to put in the effort and the time
Mm-hmm.
in order to make this work. You two and their work will get them nowhere, correct?
Correct.
Great. And it's been a success?
Yeah. Not many businesses online are still around after 10 years.
No, and the
Yeah.
businesses that I've come across, as far as my research, is that they change themselves right out of business because
Yeah.
everything changes, and they say,
Yeah.
okay, got to change here, got to change here. I, I had this one I didn't podcast her, but I did talk to her. She had a thriving business going on as far as teaching. I think she was teaching and training, mentoring people to be like her, from an art standpoint. And she was making six figures on, and it was like, and she just one day and said, I've got to stop. I can't go on anymore. Don't feel bad for me, but it's just like, it's too much. It's just
Mm.
way too much. And it's funny because I didn't see or hear from her for a long time. And then just recently, she's back. Okay, I'm back. Now I think she's doing something a little different, but the internet, it's it's yeah, I don't see any cookie cutter either. I see it's always changing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like Harry. It's like you gotta change, and
Yeah.
you gotta change again, and you gotta change,
Yeah.
and you gotta let the past go and kind of say, well, I'll try out the future, but it's not like I'm recommending it for everybody, you know. So that's wonderful. I mean, if it's still going for you and it's still working, and people
Yeah, and it's,
are
actually, Phil, it's not about me. That's the measure of success. The measure of success are the artists.
mm,
It's seeing what other people do with it. It's seeing how far they can take it. It's seeing how much change it can bring. And that's what brings me joy, is seeing artists who are willing to do the work. I give them all the tools and show them how to use them, but they have to do the work. And that's success when an
some of
artist
them
does
do,
it.
some of them don't, correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Like in anything, right?
yeah, Ryan.
My job is to keep people as engaged as I can, to make everything as clear as I can.
Mm,
I do coaching calls. I guess I've been told this is unheard of online, but I tell people, you sign up for my course and you get coaching calls for the rest of your life. Like I just keep showing up. So I've got people on my coaching calls, who maybe supported my crowdfunding campaign 10 years ago,
mm.
but they still show up on the coaching calls. We've got a great community now too, but I'm there to continue answering questions. I don't want to keep upselling people, you know, access to me or access to the answers. I don't want to keep it all hidden. I want to put it all out there.
Well, I think you make the point, and that is, on this podcast, I would say it's the relationship building. You
Yeah.
basically network. If you don't have that network and those people that you talk to, when I learned networking 101, it was handshakes and looks them in the eye, you know. And it's like those days have gone. You don't find that today, and that needs to come back. And I think what you're talking about is why you get people still calling you, is because you answer the friggin' phone. And
Mm.
I will tell the people on this podcast, anybody, I didn't know Crista, didn't know her at all. I just basically threw an email out to her, well, which was what we're suggesting you do. I just threw an email out, and she responded. I've done this with other people that I would not think would ever respond to my emails. And unfortunately, very few of them do, but
Hmm.
sometimes they will come back, and for no reason. I mean, I'm just a little spot on a map, and it's like it's nothing there. But I do have people who do every now and then, and Krista is one of them, who actually responds to me within a short period of time, and most of them don't. Most of them just walk away, and I'm too busy, I'm too successful, I don't want to talk to you, kind of a thing. I get, and it's like, and I feel that's a shame, because I think the relationships need to be built. I don't care what level you're on. From an artist standpoint, I think all levels are good levels to even talk with people, and it should always be an open door. I agree with her as far, yeah, the door should always be open, no matter what.
Right. And we should always do our research, just because you reached out to me, my job isn't then to just like put on some lipstick and show up, to have this conversation. My job after that became to like listen to your other podcasts, take a look at your other guests, learn more about you and what you're doing. It's just, it's got to be an exchange.
Right.
Just like when, artists are looking for a gallery, learn about them first before you write to them. It's you want to have a relationship. A relationship has to go two ways. There has to be investments on both sides.
Again, most people, like I said, in the States, don't want to put in the time, don't want to put in the effort. They'd rather just, pay somebody for it, or saying, I'm probably like you. I've heard so many people just say, I quit. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. It's too much. And hey, with anything, I think it's just, to me, the quitting part has always been, it will only last for a while, and then if you get over that hump, it gets a little bit better. It's a better hill, steeper, not as steep, more broad, more people. You get known, you get forward, but you got to put the time. Nobody
You got
gets
to
it for
pay your
free.
dues.
Yeah, you
Everyone
got to pay
has
the
to pay
dues.
their dues. I tell
Right.
this story a lot about a friend of mine who was a school teacher, and she just hated her job. She was just counting the years until retirement, but she loved architecture. And, she had coffee table books all over her coffee table about architecture. And she knew every architect, and her vacations were spent, chasing down architects and looking at different buildings. And I said, well, why didn't you become an architect? And she said, well, my math skills were weak. I didn't like doing math. And I thought, golly gee, okay, I get that. You get stopped or you want to get stopped. And that's where she chose to get stopped. But what a waste at the same time. Someone with so much passion ended up taking a job that she disdained, really. Didn't even like the students. Is she really doing the world any favors there? Um,
Yeah, the students probably didn't like her either.
I'm
The
sure
way
they
it is
didn't. I'm
today,
sure she
it goes both ways sometimes.
But yeah, I mean, we have to push ourselves. We have to learn. We have to grow. That's part of it. That's part of success. Paying our dues. That's what paying our dues is.
I think we've gotten under, and I think it's always been throughout time of man and women, that we get to the point. Well, I've invested so much in my life, as far as, I'm an older person. I don't need to do that anymore. I quit. Give me the retirement. I'm out. But no, it's like you said, an artist works to the day they die. And that is the way it works. I mean, you just keep there is no ceiling. It just keeps on,
Right.
you keep on getting better and better and better. And
Right.
if
And
you
look at
really
our
want to.
lifespans. How many artists like really live to old age? It's because we are working. It's because we are invested and excited and involved in learning and growing and stretching our brains.
Yeah. And it's when you get to those stopping points. But I think most everything else in life has those stopping points, where art, I mean, you talk about, I think what Whistler uh painted painted the mother at 80. I mean, just 80, 90, 100, you just keep on painting. You just keep on going. And I appreciate this. Is there anything else that you got going on that you want to throw on here that I missed? I don't know if I did or not. So I want to throw it at you, because this is your time, not mine.
Well, I just want to wrap up, and I say this too much, but I don't know if anyone hears me sometimes, that your art is not here to support you. You are here to support your art. And I think that has to be a way of life for us. You know, we have to stop thinking just because we put brush to canvas, paint to canvas, that all of a sudden it has to make a, you know, we have to make all this money from it. And it really is a process of growth, of technical growth, you know, in terms of your craft, growth in terms of your voice, the personal growth, and even the business growth. And there's a lot of personal growth involved with business growth because you learn about yourself. And, you know, and you learn about yourself through your interactions with other people. You learn about yourself through how you promote yourself and present yourself, and, you know, where you're willing to take things. And it's a beautiful, beautiful journey. It really is worth it. And supporting your art is, it's the most worthy investment you can make in your life, I believe. And it can be really joyful. And there are hard parts, but if you are part of an artist community, which is another really important part of being an artist, if you're part of a community, you're never alone. There's always going to be people there who understand what you're going through, who can help you through the rough spots, who can really give you encouragement when you need it, see what you're doing. Keep going. Keep reaching out, keep making those relationships, keep asking questions, keep listening to the answers.
Yeah, don't get so involved with yourself to the point that you just are in a corner and stuck. I mean, there's always somebody out there that will help you and get you going. And I will say this, Crista, that I think being in France where you're at, you probably have that peacefulness feeling a lot easier than I do in Dallas, Texas, because it is a different world. I mean, and it is international. We're all artists. I get that, but just there's different stress factors and different things that just tie you up into knots sometimes and just kind of pull you apart. And it is a community, and if you can get into a community and work with others to get through those points, but even as you said in your coming up, you had those stress factors and stress points too, and I've had mine. I think everybody has theirs. Go with it. They don't last forever, and if you keep at it, keep working at it, go for it, and then just don't give up. Well, again, we thank you. And her site is theworkingartist.com. Crista Coultier. Coultier. Okay. Coultier. I'll get it right. I know other people have mispronounced it, so I still.
That's right.
But it does fit France. I did notice your last name must fit France very well. And again, we'll be talking to you. I will be talking to you in the future. That's for sure. So we appreciate it. This is Phil McNally from Artspeak. And as normal, we want you to listen to our podcast. Hey, subscribe, get on board. We're trying to help other artists, and any other information or questions you guys have, throw them back at me. We appreciate you being on. Thank you very much.